don't like to eat sleep.
Right.
I suck at sleep.
Yeah.
I really do. I leave TCM on all night. My husband doesn't sleep well either. He's a lawyer by day, but he has a rock and roll band, The Cringe.
For years, she built her name on quick meals and bright energy. But the last 2 years have brought challenges no timer could solve. Her daytime show ended. Her home faced serious setbacks. Fans began whispering about changes they thought they saw. Then, just before Christmas 2025, she lost her mother, a heartbreak far from the studio lights. Rumors spread, growing louder by the day. But what is really happening behind the scenes? And how much of what people believe is actually true? Join us as we uncover the full story, the quiet unraveling. In July 2023, after 17 seasons and more than 2,000 episodes, The Rachael Ray Show taped its final episode and went off the air. The show had launched in 2006 with Oprah Winfrey's production company, Harpo, behind it, and it had run long enough to become a fixture in American daytime television, the kind of show that people watched while eating lunch or folding laundry without thinking too hard about the fact that it had always been there. Rachael Ray had built the whole thing herself, not the brand, not just the television presence, the entire infrastructure. The magazine is called Every Day with Rachael Ray. The cookbooks built on the 30-minute meals concept. The pet food line is called Nutrish. The cookware. The 3 Daytime Emmy Awards the show had won. The production company she had quietly been building while everyone was watching her make pasta on camera. All of it was hers, and the decision to walk away from the talk show format that had made her one of the most recognizable faces in American television was hers too. When Rachael Ray ended The Rachael Ray Show in 2023 after 17 seasons, she explained that her passions had shifted away from the traditional talk show format, and she immediately began developing new content through her production company, Free Food Studios. Within months of the show ending, she struck a major partnership with A&E Networks, which acquired a 50% stake in her company. She launched Rachael Ray's Meals in Minutes and Rachael Ray in Tuscany, 2 shows that put her back in her own kitchen rather than on a formal set, cooking in her real home in upstate New York and in Italy, with her husband mixing cocktails in the background and her sister helping out the way family does in a real kitchen. The problem was that the promotional campaign for the new shows was, by Rachael Ray's own admission, not great. When fans started saying she had disappeared from the public eye, her response in an October 2025 interview was direct and slightly exasperated. "I don't know what they're talking about. I work my butt off all the time. And I never left. I just switched over to A+E and new partners. That's all. But I've been working constantly." She added that she guessed they did a bad job of promoting it. A woman who had been making television continuously for 2 decades had switched networks, launched new shows, and the audience that was used to finding her in one specific daytime slot had simply not followed the trail to where she had gone. The disappearance that concerned fans were talking about was not a disappearance at all. It was a rebrand that the production team had not communicated loudly enough, but that relatively simple explanation was not the only thing the concerned fans were responding to. There were other things happening that were considerably harder to explain away. And if the end of the talk show was the moment the public story started to shift, what happened next was the thing that really made people start asking questions they were not getting answers to: the observation and admission. In the months following the show's end, fans who were keeping up with Rachael Ray through social media and public appearances started noticing something that they found genuinely worrying. In videos that circulated online, her speech sounded different, slower in places, slightly slurred in others. Not dramatically, not in a way that would be obvious on a quick watch, but enough that people who had been listening to her voice for 20 years were picking up on something they could not quite name. The concern spread quickly on platforms that were already primed to generate concern about celebrity health, and the videos were shared with the kind of commentary that accompanies any public figure's visible change. Worried, speculative, sometimes compassionate, sometimes cruel. Some people said she sounded like she had been drinking. Some said it looked like a neurological issue. Some said the raspy quality that had always been her trademark had gotten noticeably worse. The speculation covered a wide range of possibilities, and none of it was based on actual medical information because Rachael Ray had not provided any. When she finally addressed the slurred speech directly at a public event, the explanation she offered was a bum wisdom tooth. The painful dental issue, she said, was affecting the way she spoke, and the physical discomfort was visible in how she was moving her mouth. She said it at a Blue Moon Burger Bash event while appearing alongside Brooklyn Beckham. And while the explanation was medically plausible enough that it deserved to be taken seriously, it landed in an online environment that had already decided something more serious was going on. And a wisdom tooth did not satisfy the people who had been asking questions for months. Then came the revelation about the falls. On the debut episode of her podcast, I'll Sleep When I'm Dead, Rachael Ray disclosed that she had suffered a couple of bad falls, sharing that she considered herself a homemaker who enjoys physical work and physical labor, but had been dealing with the consequences of those falls for some time. She was deliberately vague about the specifics. She did not say when the falls had happened, what injuries they had produced, or what the recovery had looked like. The disclosure raised more questions than it answered, which appeared to be exactly the amount of information she was prepared to share. Fans who were already concerned about the slurred speech heard the admission about the falls and connected dots that may or may not have been connectable, with some speculating that the falls and the speech changes might be symptoms of an underlying neurological condition that had not been disclosed. Ray never confirmed or denied those specific theories. She took the position, consistently and clearly, that she was fine, that she was working constantly, and that the narrative of her decline was a story being written by people who were not in possession of the actual facts. By February 2026, the health concern conversation appeared to have taken a turn towards something more reassuring. At the 2026 South Beach Wine and Food Festival, Rachael Ray appeared noticeably slimmer, hosting Mike's amazing burger bash with the energy and command that attendees described as the Rachael Ray they had always known, with functional nutritionist Dr. Wilkes told the Daily Mail that she appeared to have lost at least 10 pounds, and suggesting she had probably cut back on carbohydrates and focused on protein and vegetables. But the health conversation and the professional transition, real and significant as both were not the heaviest things Rachael Ray was carrying. The heaviest thing had a name, and she broke the news about it herself at the very start of a December 2025 interview, before the interviewer even had a chance to ask how she was doing. The drastic toll of loss. When Yahoo journalist Susie Byrne called Rachael Ray in December 2025 for what was supposed to be a conversation about the new shows and the new chapter of her career, the first thing Rachael said was not about television at all. She opened the call with 3 words: "My mom passed." Byrne later posted on Instagram that her standard opening, "How are you?" had been met with complete honesty, describing being taken aback by the directness of it. The way Rachael ripped off the Band-Aid before the conversation had even properly started. Elsa Scuderi, Rachael Ray's mother, passed away at the age of 92 during the final days of 2025, and the celebrity chef disclosed the loss publicly for the first time in that December 22 Yahoo interview, saying, "I have been crying quite a bit, but they're tears of gratitude. Not tears of loss, not tears of grief alone, but tears of gratitude." That distinction is worth sitting with. The woman whose entire professional identity was built on the model her mother had demonstrated: the work ethic, the restaurant kitchen as classroom, the understanding that feeding people is one of the most direct expressions of love available was describing the loss of that woman in terms of what she had received rather than what she had lost. Elsa passed away at home, in Rachel's home, which was exactly what she had wanted. Rachel said, "She passed at home, in my home, and that's what she wanted. We had lots of wonderful adventures together, and in her last days, all I did was tell her the great stories of our lifetime together." The closure was a wonderful gift. It's certainly the best gift this holiday season. The image of a daughter sitting beside her dying mother, telling her the great stories of their lifetime together, is one of those genuinely human moments that no camera was there to capture and that no publicist helped craft. It happened in a private room in Rachael Ray's home between two women who had spent 57 years building a relationship that began with a baby in a restaurant kitchen and ended with a daughter's voice filling a quiet room. Rachael Ray described herself as very grateful to be her daughter and said she had had a very blessed life in many, many ways. She added that her mother had given her her work ethic and had snapped the family into man-up mode from childhood. That phrase, man-up mode, is probably the most revealing description in the interview because it explains something that the people who watch Rachael Ray on television and wonder how she keeps moving through difficulty after difficulty have perhaps not been able to name. The loss of the woman who taught her all of that in the closing days of a year that had already been one of the hardest of Rachael Ray's life is the news that none of the health speculation or professional transition coverage had prepared anyone to hear. And yet when she broke it herself with gratitude. That is either the most extraordinary emotional resilience on display or the most honest possible description of what it feels like to lose someone who lived 92 full years and died at home surrounded by the stories of a life well lived. Maybe both. Unfortunately, that wasn't the only tragic experience that changed her forever. The ruins she endured. The death of Elsa Scuderi is the most recent loss in a stretch of years that has tested Rachael Ray in ways that have nothing to do with cooking and everything to do with what kind of person shows up when the structures built around an ordinary life get systematically dismantled. In August 2020, while the COVID-19 pandemic had already turned the world upside down and Rachael Ray was filming her talk show from her home in Lake Luzerne, New York, a chimney fire burned that home almost completely to the ground. She and her husband, John Cusimano, had been inside when a neighbor walked by, saw the roof in flames, and ran to warn them. They got out, but the house did not survive. 15 years of memories, 40 years of notebooks, drawings, thoughts, and the physical evidence of a life's work were gone in about an hour. And Rachael Ray later described watching the remnants of her house be taken away for weeks while she was living in the guest house next door, saying, "I drew that house on a piece of paper and had it built. Then I redrew it and had it rebuilt." She did not stop working. The production team suggested bringing in Emeril Lagasse or another friend to finish the episodes that had been planned. She refused. She filmed cooking segments from the guest house with her husband, and within days of the fire, she was online teaching a children's summer cooking camp, making meatballs and spaghetti sauce on camera, while she could see through the window the trucks carting away what was left of the main house. That is man-up mode. That is the direct product of Elsa Scuderi's instruction. 1 year later, before the house was even fully rebuilt, Hurricane Ida hit New York City and flooded Rachael Ray's Greenwich Village apartment. She had just finished a complete renovation. Every speaker in the ceiling, the fireplace, every seam in the wall was destroyed. Then the remediation team, while working on the damage, accidentally cracked the main water line and flooded additional apartments throughout the building. 2 floods, one after the other, in an apartment she had just finished fixing. The fire, the pandemic, the flooding, the second flooding, all of it in roughly 18 months. John Cusimano, the entertainment attorney and musician she married in Montalcino, Tuscany, Italy, on September 24, 2005, has been her constant presence through every one of these catastrophes, and their 20-year marriage has survived a level of accumulated disaster that would have ended most relationships. The marriage has not been without its own controversies. The National Enquirer ran stories in 2006 and again in 2013, claiming Cusimano had been unfaithful, allegations that both Ray and Cusimano dismissed as false and that have never been substantiated with credible evidence. Cusimano appears in her new A&E shows mixing cocktails and cooking alongside her, a visible presence in the real kitchen of the real life they have built together through fire and flood and professional reinvention. Rachael Ray has described the secret of their 20-year marriage in the most straightforward possible terms. They do not hold anything back. She described them both as volatile people who, when something makes them angry, say so immediately and loudly, then kiss and laugh again 5 minutes later. She said quiet people freak her out, that she would rather have the explosion and then the resolution than the slow burn of something left unsaid. The marriage that looked potentially troubled from the outside during the tabloid years is, by this account, exactly the kind of volatile, passionate, high-temperature relationship that produces 20 years of actual staying power. And if the marriage is stronger than the tabloids predicted, what is the professional chapter that Rachael Ray is building now? And does it have the same energy as everything that came before? The new beginnings. The professional story of what comes after The Rachael Ray Show is actually, by the numbers, a success story. It just has not been told as one because the health concerns and the visible changes and the speculation about her whereabouts have dominated the conversation in ways that the production announcements never quite broke through. Here is what actually happened. After the talk show ended in 2023, Rachael Ray did not retire or slow down. She built Free Food Studios, her own production company, and then in 2024, she closed a deal with A&E Networks in which the network acquired a 50% stake in the company. The deal was extended in October 2025 through 2026. She launched 2 new shows, Rachael Ray's Meals in Minutes and Rachael Ray in Tuscany, both of which film in her real homes. And she described the experience of being the partner, rather than just the talent, as giving her a different group of opportunities and freedom that she had never had before. She said it was just exciting to still be relevant, especially as a woman in her 50s. That qualification, especially as a woman in her 50s, is the one that carries the most weight in a television industry that has historically not known what to do with women who age publicly and refuse to disappear gracefully into the background. Rachael Ray, at 57, was not going into the background. She was filming cooking shows in her house in Tuscany and negotiating partnership deals with cable networks. The podcast I'll Sleep When I'm Dead launched in late 2024 with the promise of raw, honest conversations about life's challenges, featuring celebrities, chefs, artists, and musicians. And Ray described it as unscripted, raw, and real talk, deliberately positioned as something different from the curated presentation of a network television format. The podcast produced 8 episodes before going quiet in December 2024, which generated its own speculation about what the silence meant. Ray's explanation, given at the 2025 South Beach Wine and Food Festival, was characteristically direct. She was pissed at how long her production team was taking to put the unreleased episodes up, and was constantly hounding them about it. The 2026 South Beach Wine and Food Festival appearance was, by most accounts, the most publicly reassuring moment in a long stretch of concerning ones. She hosted the burger event she has anchored for nearly 20 years, commanding the microphone with the ease of someone who has been doing this for 3 decades and has not forgotten a single thing she learned along the way. The people in the room described the transformation as dramatic and positive. The nutritionist who commented on her appearance to the media suggested the weight loss reflected the kind of dietary focus on protein and vegetables that aligned with the Mediterranean style of eating she had always described as part of her Italian-influenced approach to food. She currently splits her time between her rebuilt home in upstate New York and her home in Tuscany, Italy, the country that has always held the strongest personal and culinary pull for a woman whose grandfather was a Sicilian immigrant who put wine in her baby bottle and taught her to love food before she could properly talk. The Italy chapter of her life, the Rachael Ray in Tuscany show that puts her in an Italian kitchen with Italian light and Italian ingredients, is not a late career invention. It is the original story coming full circle. The granddaughter of an immigrant going back to the place where the family's relationship with food and flavor began. So which part of this story landed hardest for you? And do you think the new chapter with A and E is going to reach the audience that the old Rachael Ray show built over 17 seasons? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Remember to like, share, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.